Hi, Kevin Wright back with another property finance tip. And this week I'm going to talk about how to de-risk your property investments. If that sounds interesting, keep watching. Now, in one sense, investing in property is about mitigating risk, because you look at a property and you work out if it's a good investment or a bad investment. And clearly you'd want to walk away from the bad investments and just focus on the good investments. But the concept I want to talk about is risk. On one hand, risk escalation, and on the other hand, risk mitigation. Now, of course, you really want to be mitigating your risk as far as possible, but it pays to be aware of any factor in your due diligence that is not mitigating the risk, it's escalating it. That's a great habit to get into, that point by point on your due diligence, you ask yourself the question, is this escalating risk or is this mitigating risk? Keep score, keep a tally of your risk mitigations and a tally of your risk escalations. Now, of course, you want plenty of risk mitigations and you want as few as possible risk escalations. So let's just look at some of the ways that this works. Referenced in the other video, we were talking about flats and terraced and semi-detached houses. That's where most people either want to live or can afford to live. So if you're renting out a property, a flat, a terraced or a semi probably appeal to the widest spectrum of tenants. And when you eventually sell a property, it appeals to the widest cross-section of buyers. Now, deviating from mass market properties like this is a bit of a risk escalation. And the further you deviate from the mainstream, the more you're escalating that risk. What's the property built of? Now, if it's standard construction, which in most parts of the UK is brick or brick and block, to a lesser degree recently built timber framed, sticking to standard construction is risk mitigation, because you're expanding the choice of mortgage lenders that you can get a mortgage from. Deviating from standard construction is risk escalation, because now you're shrinking the number of mortgage lenders that you've got to choose from, and that usually means that the rate that you can get is increasing. Now, you do due diligence on rental demand, and if demand exceeds supply, that's a risk mitigation. But if there's more supply than demand, in other words, you're going to have a bit of trouble renting out a property, risk escalation. You see, it always comes back, are you mitigating risk or are you escalating risk? Each bit of due diligence where you can mitigate risk increases the likelihood that this is going to be a good rental property for you to buy. I'm looking at another one of my videos where I talk about the things you need to be wary of when you're buying at auction. Now, if your due diligence reveals that there's a lot of buyer fees involved as soon as you've got the successful bid, we're now escalating the risk, because it means you've got to offer a lower price to be able to still make the required margin that you want. So I've given you a few examples of risk mitigation, risk escalation. And if you apply that to every part of your due diligence when you're buying a property, it'll be much clearer to you when you tot up the scores on mitigation and the scores on escalation, how good a deal this is. Now, if that helps you to buy properties more safely and reduces the mistakes that you may make, happy days. So I'm going to be back next week with another property finance tip. But in the meantime, hang on there just a minute, because I've got something else I want to share with you. Thanks for watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, come spend some more time with me. Come and check out my property finance masterclass. Click the link here, go check it out.